Okay, first I'm saying all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Shema, Shema, Hashem, Gadash, the one says, Pastor teacher, great message from the truth. Say shalom to the hopeful light of Israel. And I'm gonna center this on this Jake lady right here. And you got the other post the hard channel. Says Auntie Ruckus is wrong, more proof the Jays are not Jake. And as you can see, she's a high yellow Jake, and something that the elder apostle literally just says, how you have a lot of women like her that hate who they are, that hate the fact that they're so-called black, they hate the fact that they're Jake, and that's showing her mannerisms, the way she talks. And I think the elder makes sure she's married to an Edomite, which, I mean, it's not really that big of a problem. You know, you're just gonna die and be reincarnated in the kingdom. It's not really that big a deal. But you have a lot of Jake women that chase after the so-called white man Esau because he has the power, he has the money, he's walking around in fancy suits and garments and silks and whatnot. And some that other Apostle Hart mentioned in one of his older videos is how women and the earth are a package deal. You know, because like what if you can, women flock to power. If you can, power and has always been wealth. And women, you get wealth. What's that, Scarface? First you get the money, then you get, I think, the respect or something, then you get the girl or something like that. But you're a package deal. You get riches, you get strength, military might, power, you get land, and women are naturally going to flock to that. And you got Jake women that hate niggers. I mean, to a certain extent, we hate niggers too, but not in the same way that she does. Chicks like that just hate the fact that they're Jake. Just hate Jake. We hate Jake for the way they act because they're a bunch of niggers. But she hates who she is, so and you can see it, and she tries her best to emulate Edomite women. And like Elder mentioned, she's probably married to an Edomite. She's likely not going to marry Jake. Which, once again, nothing wrong with that. Go ahead, you die with the slave master, and then you reincarnate into the kingdom. All's well, ends well. But I found that very, very interesting. Now, to a certain extent, once again, that's how women are. They flock. They want security. They want protection. And in this kingdom, that's found in whoever has the most U.S. dollars and U.S. assets. But there's a price that comes with that. There's positive and negative consequences that come with all decisions. To varying degrees, of course. But whether you're an Israelite man or an Israelite woman, you allying yourself to the enemy to that extent is going to lead to your death, because we all know what Esau's end is going to be, and all of those who follow him. It's Isaiah 13 and 15. So going to the nuclear missiles. In 13:15, let me see here. 13:13, therefore I will shake the heavens and the earth. How is he going to do that with the nukes? Shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. It shall be as a chase sparrow, as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man return to his own people and flee into his own land. So when America actually fucking goes down, when I think it says that in Jeremiah and Revelations, how you're gonna have heathens standing afar off watching us burning, and when people can no longer make money, because people only ally themselves with America because America is the money maker. But when that's no longer, and who's at the head of America? The white man. Hence why you have a lot of Jake women that flock to Edomite men. to Edomite culture. Not understanding that they'll never be accepted. Whether it doesn't matter how how many times the Edomite dude beds you or has his friends run a train on you. Jake will never be accepted with Esau. And actually, I just watched this video with the Hodge twins that asked this Edomite online on, I think it was on like on Twitter, if they could like come down to their farm and kick it with them or something like that. And the Edomite said, I like y'all, but respectfully, no. And there was this guy I was watching, I forgot the nigga's name, but he mentioned how that's how they really feel, which is true. That's how they really feel about you, whether they're smiling in your face or not. It's just the reality, and that that's gonna break a lot of Jake's heart, but that's the truth. Now, once again, if you want to still play with fire, play with the serpent, go ahead. Go ahead, see what happens. It's not really that. I just found that very, very interesting. Whole like deep of not it's, it's not even the fact of how it's not even the fact of how they think about it. It's just person walking into someone who's you got a lot of people. Everyone that is found shall be rescued. Everyone that's joined unto them shall fall by the sword. And what really sparked it was how she was trying to look like a white woman. The elder mentioned if she could bleach her skin, she would. It's one thing to that's what really sparked it because it's one thing to to want to hop on the fence to the other side, but it's another thing entirely when when you hate who you are and where you come from. And you obviously, you take a look at Jake. Jake is a bunch. Jake as a whole is a bunch of violent, wild niggas. But when you, because this really this week and probably like starting the end of last week, is I've been watching I don't know what the fuck, but there's been like a ton of videos on my feed, my algorithm and whatnot that's been recommended going into like fucked up Edomites, like that nigga Gideon. He's been catching a lot of Edomite pedophiles, like these Edomites. They're YouTubers that appears to be these good citizens, but we do a little bit more digging into personal lives, what they're doing. These niggas over fucking animals and killing them and shit, like all type of crazy shit, man. But that's the the nature of Esau is a fucking wild animal. I bring that comes to mind because what Jake or heathen as a whole, because you got other heathen that look at a white man as quintessence of excellence, the pinnacle of what it is to be a proper and successful nation. But when you actually get into how they got their wealth, that's one thing. But when you get into how they act with their wealth behind closed doors, that's another thing. But also with how even the average Edomite is a vile, sick animal. And that's who you want to ally yourself with. The caveman. The beast man. It's Romans 3:1. Cause like what the reason why we're currently like this is because we fucked up. Aren't like that's what she and her fellow turncoat compatriots don't really get is that our natural state is not as what you see with fucking high ass STD rates all over the damn place and DL niggas, fucking DL niggas all over the damn place. That's not naturally our that's not our natural state as a people. It's Romans 3:1. With advantage then hath the Jew, what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of Yahweh. Here, let me see what that word oracle means. No, you have with great power comes great responsibility, but with great power comes great perks as well. definition: a brief utterance, a divine oracle, because oracles are generally brief, and the words or utterances of Yahweh are the contents of the Mosaic law. They're actually looking for a learned man, man of letters, skilled in literature, the arts, versed in history and antiquities, skilled in speech, eloquent, rational, wise. But when you go into oracle, what do you think of? You think of prophet, and the prophets were and are above earthly kings. What comes to mind is when Nathan had rebuked Daniel. Going to a prop. As far as like that no, not Daniel, David. And also you had Daniel, which told Nebuchadnezzar his dream, and he was made third in control of the entire Babylonian Empire. I think it was third in command. But I'm gonna go into Daniel. I think it's maybe one really quickly because the men of our nation weren't just a bunch of wild niggas. Like, even if you want to go into like the so-called wise men of our nation that you have now, obviously, below the prophets, like worldly wise, they're a bunch of sellout niggas. When I mean sellout, I mean they got bent over a damn table. You have your your financial niggas and whatnot, but there's still a bunch of niggas. Under the suit, they're just a bunch of niggas with money. Their entire value is predicated off of how much money they have, and that's it. So Daniel 1, and this is when Nebuchadnezzar took over Jerusalem, and he wanted to, how do I say this? Not establish relations, but get a feel for how for how the people that he took over, how they are, like what they respond to. Because obviously, if you're taking over people, you got to have some type of understanding of who this people is. Like, for example, you take over a nation of people, and you get them in captivity, you establish whatnot. It's easier to have someone that look like them, to pretty much, I don't want to say coerce them. That may be, for lack of better words, to teach you about this people, and probably even guide them under your rulership. Just like how you have with Esau and fucking celebrities, right? That guide the majority of Jake into following the bullshit that Esau pushes. You may take over a nation, you do that, but you could take over a nation, and you don't know where it is, but it could be orally passed down that if you get taken over, you wait till the enemy gets comfortable, and then you crash the fuck out with fire bombs all over the damn place. Or you may do some shit that may trigger something. So you gotta know the people that you're taking over. Now, us in the kingdom, we just gonna whoop all y'all ass. That's how that's gonna go. But this is how things are going on with Nebuchadnezzar. So Daniel 1 and 3, and the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children of whom there is no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, cunning and knowledge, understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them daily provision of the king's meat and the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and Azariah of Abednego. But we already know what happened. We know what is brought on. The Lord gave Daniel wisdom, and he was seen as wise. And let me see here if it says here. Maybe in 3. No. Daniel 2:46. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your God is God of gods and Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, saying, Thou couldst reveal the secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of governors over all the wise men of Babylon. But you had kings that bowed down to the prophets of our nation, and that had certain respect for our people. Like even if it was a nation that hated our people, they still had a respect. They wanted to destroy our people. They still had a respect for the men of our nation. And obviously, that's our higher position, really the caretakers of the earth. But and even in that, our position is not of niggas. Not these faggots going to prison. These YNs crashing the fuck out. And that's what she's trying. That's what her and niggas like her are trying to get away from. They hate that that's really what it is. But once again, why are we in this situation? Because we fucked up. But what's going to happen? What's all this winding up to? Jeremiah 30:17, For I restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, said the Lord, because they called thee an outcast. And once again, she doesn't, she looks, being a nigga is being an outcast of society, the scouring the scum of the world, the scum on the bottom of shit of the world. People will sooner touch that pile of shit than touch what's on the bottom of it. And that's what our people is looked at. And she doesn't like that she was born as one of those people. Her and all of her turncoat compatriots. This is Zion whom no man seeketh after. So, the best way to lighten up her skin, flick her hair back, and if you watch the video, to pronounce her, to make sure she's brushed up on her grammar and pronounce her words correctly. Make sure to pause, whenever there's a comma. Sound excited whenever her sentence has an exclamation mark. To try to get a little bit closer to her white daddy. Once again, it's not really a big deal, to be honest. Romans 3:2, much every way, chiefly because down to them were committed the oracles of Yahweh. And no, that was just a small example. That was just a single, not well, I won't necessarily call it small. That was just a single example of how men of our nation were favored, for the wisdom and the way that we act. Our laws, statutes, commandments. I just came to mind for us. But the point I want to get, I guess, is Romans 3:1. What advantage then hath the Jew? What advantage is there to being an Israelite, to being a so-called nigga? Much every way, in every possible way conceivable and imaginable, it's preferable to be an Israelite. And I forgot the guy's name, but was it in Numbers? But he mentioned how he wanted to be an Israelite because he understood what Jake had coming. And I think Lord gave the heathen the vision to prove a point. But if I remember correctly, he wanted to be Jake because he knew what Jake had coming. Control and rulership over everything, if I remember. It's been a while since I read that. But yeah, what's the point of being? Because like in a lot of Jake in general, so where has God loved us? What's the point of you got the truth, who you are. Now what do you do? What's the point of it? In this current world where the dollar is king for a certain while, And there's financial advice in the scriptures as well. But as far as the intricacies of how to deal within Esau's financial system, majority of our people don't see any type of use. You know, they can't have fun. What they consider fun doesn't teach them how to make money. As far as the intricacies of how you, like, for example, invest in stocks and stuff like that, doesn't teach them none, like the intricacies of that. So they see no use for it. You know, their time will be to them. Their time would be better spent smoking weed and doing whatever it is that they do. But just like a stock, the stock value may be low now, just like with with Bitcoin. Um, yeah, well, yeah, really Bitcoin, and really a lot. I want to say damn near, well, at least all the major companies, how they started out small. And I remember when Reddit was the social media I think it's something like a marketplace when Reddit was when it first dropped on the stock market. It first dropped at like $33, but then a few months later, shit went up to 100. Then it went to 200, and then but like I should have fucking put some money into it. But like when all these companies they first dropped, the value was low. But when they go sky high, people left wondering like, well, what the fuck just happened? And it's the same thing with the truth. The truth's value is going to skyrocket in the future during Jacob's trouble. But by then the Lord will have pulled the prophets off the street, and all the people are just gonna be left ass the fuck out. But they don't see any value now because they don't have the vision. They're not looking forward into the future. All they're looking at is their immediate needs and concerns. Same thing with turncoat Jakes. They say, hey, this is horrible. I don't want to, end up, dating and getting pregnant by one of these weed smoking, ashy lip, grimy niggas. And in that sense, fair enough. I mean, you should have, obviously, Lord had you, travel the path that you would have traveled. But man, the Lord will be best for her. But not wanting to shack up with like what we're told. Like obviously, it's different for us because we can deal with heathen women. But at the very least, to leave niggas alone. You know, to not be around ashy fucking gap in the middle of the teeth rapping niggas. Y'all see what comes with niggas? Nothing but destruction and fucking chaos. But that's not all of our people, and that's certainly not the prophets. But once again, the Lord had her travel the path that she chose, or the path that he had her travel on. But hope all made sense. Hope it's edifying. All praises going on to Yahweh Shema Shabbat Shema Dash the one says prophecy for myself from truth. Shalom to hopefully Israel instruction battle on Great America.